And his father informed him that there was submarine activity below the ice, that they were tunneling to get underneath. A lot of people don't realize that
NASA's new ANITA program has detected bizarre, unexplained radio signals emerging from beneath Antarctica's ice. Some defy known physics, hinting at possible alien origins or unknown particles interacting deep within Earth's frozen depths. And if you couple that with new information leaked by whistleblowers, we have on our hands something extraordinary. A recent high-altitude balloon mission, ANITA, the Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, has done the unthinkable. It's detected radio pulses not from space, but from deep below the ice, climbing at steep angles that shouldn't exist. These are radio bursts, rising 30 degrees beneath the horizon, signals that, according to our best physics, ought to be impossible. ANITA is designed to detect ultra-high energy neutrinos, ghost particles that pass through entire planets without a whisper. But even these elusive particles can't emerge from the Earth's crust with the force that ANITA observed. And here's the kicker. This has happened multiple times. Sharp, upward-facing signals, caught not once, but again and again. And when scientists tried to cross-check the events with IceCube, the massive neutrino detector buried beneath the South Pole, they found nothing. Silence. As if these signals are slipping past every conventional explanation. So what's going on? Some believe these are echoes of new physics, interactions that could involve dark matter, undiscovered particles, or even higher dimensional phenomena. One bold idea? That these are sterile neutrinos, a theoretical kind of particle that doesn't interact with matter or light as we know it. Others point to CPT violation, a break in the symmetry of time and space itself. But there's another possibility, one that's not theoretical, one that's not in the textbooks, and that's where the whistleblower comes in. A former contractor for Raytheon, the defense giant that runs key infrastructure at the South Pole, has stepped forward with claims that take this mystery to the next level. In a recorded interview, he describes a base operating under layers of secrecy. Yes, there are scientists. Yes, there are weather stations and neutrino labs. But there are also off-limits zones, nighttime operations, and equipment deliveries that didn't match the manifest. He describes watching cargo, sealed, unmarked, being moved with urgency under cover of polar storms. Staff were told to stay indoors. External cameras were blacked out. The excuse? Routine upgrades. But the timing? Aligned exactly with ANITA's detections. Something changed after those signals, he said. Suddenly, areas were restricted. Flights were redirected. Civilians were rotated out. I've worked high-clearance contracts before. That wasn't science. That was military. He claims that personnel from unknown branches of government, wearing no insignia, arrived and worked in teams separate from regular researchers. He overheard mentions of directed energy systems, geophysical scanning, and, most bizarrely, harmonic amplification. And perhaps strangest of all, a project nicknamed simply the Vault. Some have dismissed these claims as conspiracy-fueled fantasy, but others aren't so sure, because throughout history, Antarctica has been surrounded by secrecy and myth. Ancient maps, like the Piri Reis, appear to depict the continent centuries before its official discovery, complete with details of an ice-free coastline. Operation High Jump in 1946 sent thousands of US troops to the frozen south for reasons still debated. And Nazi expeditions to Neuschwabenland remain shrouded in mystery, with rumors of subterranean tunnels, hidden bases, and contact with something non-human. Could the anomalous ANITA signals be echoes of ancient technologies buried under the ice? Could they be tapping into something not just extraterrestrial, but ultra-terrestrial? There's growing speculation that what ANITA detected wasn't a particle at all, but a signal, a message, or a burst of energy from deep underground, not caused by neutrinos from the cosmos, but by something moving beneath the continent. Because here's what no one's explaining. Those upward moving signals? They seem to follow no known trajectory, no origin point in the sky, no predictable pattern. Some physicists have even joked that they're coming from the Earth's core, only half joking. And now, as the PUEO mission prepares to launch, a more sensitive successor to Anita, the world waits. Will it confirm the impossible? Will it unravel the truth? Or will it be silenced, like so many stories from Antarctica before it? Because the deeper you go, the more the ice seems to whisper, of physics gone rogue, of secrets buried for centuries, of signals rising where none should be, and of the chilling possibility that someone or something is trying to reach us from below. In 1963, deep in the Ross Sea, an American icebreaker, the USS Edisto, stumbles upon something extraordinary. A massive iceberg drifts silently across the horizon, 9 stories high. Nothing unusual until the lookout spots it. Halfway up the pristine white face, a smear, a dark, unnatural scar in the ice. The ship inches closer. What at first looks like debris soon reveals itself as something far stranger. Enormous wooden beams, canvas tarps fluttering in the polar wind, and 4 thick telephone poles jutting straight out of the ice. It isn't wreckage, it's a structure. But whose? Could this be the lost camp of legendary explorer Admiral Richard Byrd? Or something far more secretive? Back in 1940, just a few miles inland on the Ross Ice Shelf, Byrd built his 3rd Antarctic base, Little America 3. This wasn't just a tent in the snow, it was a fortified base with barracks, labs, fuel stores, and something never seen before in polar exploration, a mobile fortress, the Antarctic Snow Cruiser, a technological marvel ahead of its time, 56 feet long, 37 tons, 4 giant balloon tires, its own onboard lab and sleeping quarters, and even a runway on top for launching reconnaissance planes. It was designed to travel 5,000 miles across the ice without ever stepping outside. But the snow cruiser disappeared, last seen partially buried on the Ross Ice Shelf, and then nothing. No one knows what happened to it. Until now? Some believe the Edisto found exactly that. Remnants of Byrd's lost base, frozen inside the very ice it was built upon, broken off and drifting after decades hidden from the world. Others aren't so sure, because Byrd's expeditions weren't just about exploration. Declassified documents hint at Cold War surveillance, advanced communication systems, and joint military scientific experiments. Could the site on the iceberg have been more than just a camp? And here's where it gets darker. In the late 1930s, Nazi Germany launched secret expeditions to Antarctica, claiming a vast section of the continent they called Neuschwabenland. Allegedly, they constructed bases, ran experiments, and some say they vanished into the ice. What if what the Edisto found wasn't Byrd's camp at all, but part of something far older, far more hidden? A buried outpost, broken loose. A ghost base drifting silently back into the world. And what happened to the snow cruiser? If it really was on that iceberg, where did it go? Did it sink when the ice fractured? Is it still trapped in the depths? Or was it recovered, quietly, by someone else? But here's where the trail takes a chilling turn. Some researchers believe the snow cruiser never disappeared into the ice. They say it was taken. In the early 1950s, during the height of the Cold War, Soviet expeditions mysteriously began operating near the same sector of the Ross Ice Shelf. Rumors swirled that a Soviet team discovered the buried snow cruiser and salvaged it under cover of night. Did they tow it inland, reverse engineer its technology, hide it in one of their secret Arctic facilities? No one knows for sure, because after that, the snow cruiser was never seen again. Although we know some of Antarctica's secrets, there are many more. What if we told you it's hiding something? Something not just strange, but monstrous? On February 14th, 2021, an anonymous post appeared on 4chan's paranormal board. The user, calling himself Son of Anton, claimed his father, a military doctor stationed at McMurdo Base in the 1990s, had seen things no one was ever meant to talk about. This is the original post. I'm using this name because it's easier for me to keep track of this stuff. Some background. My dad is a doctor, was stationed at McMurdo for 11 months in the 90s. Not saying what year because he was the only doctor there, and y'all could track me down. Frequently went out on scientific expeditions. First and foremost, there were some areas where people just didn't go. They weren't environmentally hazardous. They just were avoided. For one reason or another, when my dad asked one of the researchers who had been there for 10 years, he went pale and told them to shut up. It was about 30 miles southeast of McMurdo. They took a 5-mile detour around whatever the hell was there. So what was out there? According to the post, strange tracks appeared in the snow. 5-legged, spider-like creatures, spotted only at night. Their stride spanned 30 to 40 human steps. His father had Polaroids, eyewitnesses, but every single one had been warned to stay silent. One night, his father treated a man covered in deep lacerations, babbling nonsense. "They were frozen! We thought they were dead!" he screamed, until guards stormed in and tried to gag him. The doctor objected. The man needed oxygen. The guards didn't care. The man disappeared within hours. The next morning, Anton's father was locked in his room until the incident was handled. No report, no explanation, just a warning, and that was just the beginning. Later, while out driving across the ice with fellow staff, they struck something alive. When they stepped out, they saw a creature, like something from a horror film, spindly legs, fleshy, half-insect features. It was dead, crushed by the vehicle. But before the doctor could react, he was shoved back in the car and ordered to forget what he saw. The story escalates. He claimed bodies kept turning up, military and civilian, torn limb from limb, thawed out and flown home. Many of the bodies belonged to men no one had ever met. Arctic warfare officers, they were called. But no one knew who they were or why they kept dying. And then came the journal. While working on a dead researcher, Anton's father found a notebook in the man's pocket. Inside were detailed diagrams of creatures that didn't exist. When he asked a colleague about them, she froze. Hours later, he was summoned and given a final warning: shut up or get shipped home. But curiosity had taken hold. One day, with his commanding officer away, he broke into the man's quarters and found hundreds of classified documents. Operations, excursions, biological experiments. It was all there. The base, he said, was involved in genetic warfare, creating weaponized hybrids, engineered using DNA from ancient life forms preserved in the ice. He had stumbled into something massive, something global, and that's when they came for him. He was detained, interrogated, and told he would be sent back to the US within the week. But he wasn't done yet. He spent every remaining moment documenting everything. Then, just days before his flight out, another man, a soldier named Jones, burst into his room. He had just returned from a mission and needed to talk. Jones described a facility, a laboratory hidden beneath the ice. He said it wasn't American, it was Chinese, or at least partly. And what they found inside defied belief. There were cages, tunnels, broken glass, blood, bodies, and strange flickering equipment that looked decades ahead of anything they'd seen. The deeper they went, the worse it got. Jones claimed the tunnels housed bullet trains, with destinations marked as Hong Kong, London, New York, Melbourne. He said it was a global network, a hidden infrastructure stretching beneath continents. They were creating bioweapons, spliced from ancient DNA and raised in secret, outside the reach of law or morality. They spent 18 hours clearing the facility. What they saw haunted them. Anton's father kept records, files, testimony, all stored on an old Apple IIe in their home. But soon after Anton began sharing his story, he vanished. No follow-up, no second post, just silence. Some say it was a hoax, a creepypasta, a lonely man spinning tales. But others believe Anton and his father uncovered something real, a dark secret buried under the Antarctic ice, waiting to be exposed. Because with growing whispers of underground tunnel systems, genetically resurrected life, and intercontinental labs hidden beneath the snow. You have to ask yourself, what else, not of this world, is Antarctica hiding? Now, let's go full circle to look at possibly the most outlandish claim ever made about Antarctica. The claim surrounding Operation High Jump, a United States-led operation, which took place in early 1947, as they looked to establish a research base at the South Pole. At least officially, according to some research following the transplantation of German engineers and scientists to the United States as part of Operation Paperclip in the aftermath of the Second World War, they had learned of an already established base of the Third Reich in the frozen world of Antarctica. A base, incidentally, that also had an alien presence with an apparent cover story of wishing to establish a research base in place. The operation was led by highly respected naval officer, Rear Admiral Richard Byrd, and it would be Byrd's own writings and testimony that would seemingly reveal the real reasons for the mission. On the afternoon of February the 19th, 1947, Byrd took to the skies for reconnaissance flight over the frozen continent. However, according to his diary, notes, flight entries, and press conferences, he would give in the days and weeks following the flight. Instead of seeing thick, rugged sheets of ice, he found himself looking down on lush green vegetation, as well as mammoth-like beasts and other animals that he claimed shouldn't have been there. He would elaborate that he found himself looking at a huge opening, and that when he followed it, he found himself inside the Earth itself. It appeared he was flying over a huge city as he entered a mammoth, cavernous opening. Then things turned even stranger, the claim that something took over his plane, while at the same time, a voice came over the radio. Bidding him welcome, it had, he recalled, a strong Nordic or German accent. He further noticed several round, circular-shaped objects approaching him. His plane was brought to land on the ground, and several tall, blonde-haired men approached his plane. His last flight note declared that a voice from outside his plane was ordering him to open the cargo doors, according to what he would later tell the Chilean newspaper, El Mercurio. He and his men were accompanied to a large building where they were served drinks, unlike anything they had previously tasted. He then claimed to have met with representatives of a race that resided in the inner earth. They told him that they had been allowed to enter unharmed, as they were aware of his noble character. He would further reveal that the bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima had created concern among their kind regarding the human race, and that they now felt compelled to intervene. Should such an event appear likely in the future, perhaps most alarming of all, particularly in light of his statement, certainly in a race felt compelled to intervene in human affairs, was his claim that the United States military had to prepare for attack from objects that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Whether we should take Byrd at his word or treat his claims with a pinch of salt remains open to debate. It is perhaps interesting, though, that he was hospitalized only days after his press conference. And what's more, despite his renowned reputation, he was never again allowed to speak publicly about his experiences again, at least in an official capacity. In his writings, around a decade later, Byrd would write that he had been ordered to remain silent on his encounter for the sake of humanity. While the claims of Richard Byrd were one of the first mysterious events surrounding Antarctica, one of the most recent is no less mysterious or thought-provoking. It occurred at some point in the late 1990s or early 2000. Deep below the Russian research facility Vostok Station, it has long been suspected by scientists that a great lake of water flowed below the ice, since the base had been first established in 1957. The presence of the lake under the sheets of ice was finally confirmed in 1993. After 3 decades of tests and experiments by both Russian and British scientists. What is further interesting about Lake Vostok is that scientists believe its environment is very similar to that on Europa, one of the main moons of Jupiter, and a celestial body that many believe could well harbor life. And it didn't take long for the scientists with an interest in studying Europa to turn their attention to the lake under Vostok Station. It also didn't take long for conspiracies and alleged leaked documents to find their way into the public domain. The general thrust of the claims are that a secret, an ultra-specialized elevator was painstakingly installed through the thick ice and eventually down to the environment below, including Lake Vostok. What's more, according to a whistleblower testimony from someone who claims to have worked on the project, Dr. Anton Padalka, who once sought sanctuary in Switzerland after allegedly abandoning the operation. And they found a lot more than they were expecting. Padalka claims the team discovered a 14-armed octopus in the waters of Lake Vostok. This octopus was unlike anything they'd previously seen, with the glass octopus being the closest comparison. According to Padalka, not only did this being seen to have superior intelligence to a standard octopus, it could paralyze a person with its venom from 150 feet away. Even more remarkable, it had the ability to change its form and mimic a number of other aquatic creatures. By the time the research team had realized it could also assume the form of a person and mimic the crew, it was too late to save one of the biologists from being ripped to pieces by this apparent alien life form. It was eventually captured, whereupon Russian military officers arrived at the base and confiscated it. Its whereabouts now is unknown, but rumblings among the crew were that these would be attempts to weaponize the alien DNA of the unsettling aquatic alien, which would ultimately lead Padalka to publicly reveal what he knew.